he said, and this is not going to change. And he was very honest, and he said, you are fat.
Tipping the scale at 362 pounds, Stephanie knew she needed to make some major changes. Find out how this mother of 3 dropped an astounding 192 pounds and is on course to lose even more weight on this riveting episode of A Tale to Tell. All right, I'd like to welcome my guest Stephanie Mraz to the podcast today. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is exciting.
We're about to hear the amazing story of how Stephanie lost an astounding 192 pounds. So I think I'm as anxious as our audience is to hear about all this.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to dive right in and ask you how you lost 192 pounds.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I've seen your photos. I didn't believe it.
Yeah. That's a fair response.
Quite honestly.
Yeah.
I've been training people for almost 30 years, and I've had some great successes with people.
Yeah.
But 192 pounds is pretty astonishing. So before we go there, let's just really look at how you got there.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind telling us all how you gained all that weight before we hear about how you lost all that weight.
Yeah, so let's go back in time, of course. So I have 2 kids, and so I think a lot of that happened after I'm a young mom. I had my oldest son I got pregnant when I was 19, had him when I was 20 years old, almost 21. And I think after that, I had just a lot of life things happen, I have a story, as all of us do.
Absolutely.
So a lot of that was like depression. Food became my solution, and drinking alcohol, and I call it living my best life with no exercise, no, anything. So I just ate and ate and ate. And then after I had my oldest son, I got married. So I met someone, you fall in love, and you just kind of, you don't think about those things. I didn't. It's a very common thing to do where you're going out to eat all the time. You're just, doing all these things. Well, I think I found myself doing things I'd never done before. I never ate out before. I couldn't afford it, college student. I was young. I didn't really do it in high school. So then all of a sudden you're 21. You can drink alcohol. You can go to Taco Bell whenever you want. So I found myself really doing that all the time.
A lot of freedom.
A lot of freedom. And my husband's parents and his family owned a restaurant in Silverton. And we went there all the time. And it was so absolutely delicious. So I found myself just eating all the time. Food was not, I don't think I had the education then, most certainly, of food. I couldn't really separate it from emotions and, all of those things. So then I had my second son, and I gained 80 pounds in my pregnancy while I was pregnant.
Just during your pregnancy?
And a lot of it, people are like, how did you do that? Well, this is how. A breakfast really for me consisted of 5 or 6 donuts, and then the donut roll, something from Starbucks, a cookie, and this was every single day. This was just,
became your new habit.
It just became a habit, and it was an awesome habit, and I loved it, But then for lunch, I was having a full-blown meal. So, that's something from Sizzling Siam, our local Thai place, with 4 egg rolls. And it was, my mind and my body didn't talk to each other at the time. So that means I was full, I was physically full, but I loved the food. It tasted so good. So I didn't stop eating. I didn't stop even though my body said stop.
So 80 pounds during the pregnancy,
Yep.
and then you just continued to build upon that. For how long?
Correct. So probably for another year, I want to say. Braxton, my youngest son, is 7. So I think he was almost a year, maybe a little after he was a year old. And I continued that cycle. I gained about another 100 pounds.
Wow.
And I didn't own a scale. I never got on a scale. I never wore jeans.
You just wore a lot of sweatpants and baggy clothes?
I wore yoga pants and big t-shirts. Or I wore my husband's shirts, the bigger sweatshirts.
Sure.
And so there wasn't accountability. There wasn't anything. It's funny because I remember wearing Spanx So, you can buy, as a woman, you can buy Spanx like at Walmart that go like all the way up your stomach and go down to your knees.
Sure.
So I would wear this Spanx and then a tank top on top of the Spanx and then a dress. So it's like when you look in the mirror, you're looking at something that's 100% flat and you don't really know what your body's doing unless you're like in the shower or something else. So there was no accountability for me. I just didn't really know, anything that happened. So
you truly didn't realize you were gaining this much weight, or did you just kind of...
I think I just didn't really
blocked
care.
It out.
I think I just didn't, like, if I'm being honest, I think I just didn't care. Even when I was heavy, at my heaviest point in time, I never looked in the mirror and hated my body or myself, ever.
Okay.
I never, I hated things like getting tired after putting my socks on or tying my shoes or not being able to fit a towel, but I never hated what I looked at in the mirror. I never looked in the mirror and thought to myself, wow, Stephanie, you really overdid it.
So you're pretty comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you woke up every day being depressed because you were heavy.
And I think that was part of... I was also really young, looking back. I was 25, 26 years old, so I had 2 young babies, and so I think those stressors in my life at the time were way more of a stress than anything else.
Okay.
So, that is kind of how I gained weight, was really just eating what I wanted, when I wanted, all the time. I mean, I would send my husband, who was so nice, this was my husband at the time, I would send him, oh man, I'm feeling like some Baskin Robbins. And so he would go to Baskin Robbins and get us Baskin Robbins. Or, I feel like Doritos, a whole bag of Doritos. And so we would go and get the Doritos. We would go and get the McDonald's or the Taco. I mean, we literally just, we wanted it, we got it, we had it. There was no structure of food.
Okay, so now... and probably everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing about 180 pounds.
Yeah.
This obviously tipped at about, 192.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point? What
is-
happened that made you say, okay, there's something seriously going on here?
So, and this is probably the scariest part about my specific story, is that it was never me looking in the mirror and hating what I saw or feeling. I got physically ill. So I basically woke up one night in the middle of the night, and I was violently ill. So we're talking vomiting and then some severe pain that came
Abdominal
after that.
pain? Or?
I mean, the abdominal pain, I cannot, I've had 2 children. I cannot describe how painful this is. So we went to the emergency room in the middle of the night. They thought, okay, maybe you just had some food poisoning, so here's some pain medication, and, it'll kind of go away when it goes away. Next morning I woke up, I was perfectly fine. I felt great, no big deal. I went on about my life. About a week later, the same thing happened at the same time in the morning. And every time it was around 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 or 2, I woke up, I was violently ill. And when we say violently ill, we think I was throwing up. And when you think about the food that you have in a day, I'm like, when is it going to stop? Why is it not stopping? I didn't eat that much today.
So you're probably throwing up bile as well.
It was absolutely, yes, it was awful. So I went to the emergency room again. I had an ultrasound, CAT scans, x-rays. They did the whole works because I was like, listen, I was just here a week ago. Seems something is wrong. They were like, nope, your gallstones are fine. Everything looks fine. We don't know what's going, go home. Pain medication, go home. I thought, well, okay, this is just really weird. Maybe I got food poisoning again. Well, then 2 days later, the same thing happened. So we went to the emergency room again. And my brother actually had to come and get us, and it was like this whole thing, and I was just screaming violently in the back seat. My brother was like, "Okay, wow, this is crazy. Now we believe you. Like something weird is happening." So we get to the ER, and I just happened to still be getting sick that day. Like I got the abdominal pain first for some reason that time. I had thrown up a little bit, but not very much. And the cycle of what my body was doing was the same every time. I woke up. I had gastric reflex all day. So it would start about noon, and I would burp the taste of throat, gastric reflex. And the taste would get worse as the day went on, which is how I knew I was going to be sick. 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, I had diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and then I couldn't move. So finally I went to digestive health here, and I had an upper endoscopy, a colonoscopy. I had every test under the sun. And this doctor, who just had no bedside manner but also basically saved my life, He literally said, listen, you have physically nothing wrong with you. You are putting way too much bad foods in your body. Your body cannot break down the acid that you're putting in. Your stomach can't handle it. There's nothing in there breaking it down. So what happens is it's piling up until it has nowhere else to go. So it's not, most people lose it by, going to the bathroom like normal people. My body just wasn't bringing it down. So that's why I was throwing up so much, because it had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And he said, and this is not going to change. And he was very honest, and he said, you are fat. If you want to do something about it, change the way you eat. That's it. Take some Zantac.
Wow. And so did you listen? What did you...
Not at first. At first I was like, well, you're rude. I'm not fat. And that was like, I hadn't processed.
You really didn't believe you were fat?
No, I really didn't believe that I was what he said that I was. So I, went back home and kind of, told my husband and my family what he said, and just kind of like went on about my day and my life for another, I want to say, month, until it happened again.
So I hate to interrupt you, but I think it's important for everyone to understand that you're not a big one. You're not tall.
Yeah,
how tall are you?
5'2".
5'2".
Yeah, 5'2".
So you're 5'2", and right now you're about
180 pounds.
180 pounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted us to all try to get a picture of this. So,
and I think that's the hard thing about, like, I blame dresses and the color black and all these things, is it's very easy to hide things from yourself. Like the mind, like the mental thing that you have with yourself when you're heavy is very easy. I mean, I would do things like get my nails done and pedicure to make me feel good that I didn't even realize were covering how I actually felt about my body. And, that's taken a lot of, therapy and stuff like that for me to fix. And we'll get to some of that.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you. Let's go back to, I just want people to have a kind of a mental picture of what you look like.
Yeah, yeah. So
then and now.
So I then decided to kind of do some research on my own, and I just Googled diets, I came across the Paleo diet, which I knew absolutely nothing about. I'd known, and also I don't have any heavy friends, especially at the time. All of my friends were very thin, fit, went to the gym, so I didn't really have anyone to call and say, hey, what diets have you ever done?
Sure.
So I looked at the Paleo diet, and I was like, that kind of looks really hard. I don't know what to do here.
Maybe not sustainable for you.
Maybe not something that works for my life. So I went on Weight Watchers, and I purchased T25 because I was not about to go into a gym anywhere. That was not going to happen.
So that was at home, a video series you could watch?
It's a beach body program, something like a DVD. Came in a DVD set. And the very first day, I will remember it as if it's yesterday. I lasted a minute and a half in T25.
Wow.
And I chose T25 because it was 25 minutes, and I thought, that's going to be so easy. I can do 25 minutes a day. Then I started to do jumping jacks and realized I could do about 2. And so I thought, wow, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Just way too intense and too fast. And
it was hard, and it hurt, and it was like I also... this is something that's hard to say out loud, but I also was a pack-a-day smoker. I smoked cigarettes, a pack a day. And I decided to quit smoking.
You were just doing everything bad.
Yeah, I was doing everything bad, and I think, I had my early 20s, I had gone through a lot of traumatic things in my life, and so I think I was just trying to figure it all out, and the mistake I made then was trying to do it alone. That was one of the worst mistakes I made, but also the best decisions, because I've learned so much from it. So,
may I ask?
Yeah.
Am I at liberty to ask you what those traumatic
absolutely.
things were?
So my oldest son, he has we call him the sperm donor. He has a dad that's not in his life. His dad now adopted him. This is something we've shared with him, with my son, that we've talked about. And so that relationship that I had, there was some physical abuse there. So I had to pack everything I had in one suitcase and move in with my parents and start over at the age of 21 with a 3-month-old child.
Wow.
So, I mean, I had 4 outfits that my mom took me down to Walmart to purchase because, I had moved to Michigan with him to start a life, and he basically beat the crap out of me in a garage, and the cop came and sat next to me and basically said, you have a baby. What are you going to choose? The next time I'm here, you're probably going to be, dead. So I made the choice to call my parents, whom, by the way, I had lied to and told them that I was in a totally different state.
Oh, boy.
My parents have really always bailed me out of some really hard times. I have a very strong family base. When I was in my 20s, my family was very supportive and very helpful. So when, they flew me home from Michigan and really helped me start my life over with my son, and then I met someone 3 months later and married him. So I made a lot of mistakes when I was young because I thought I had to. I thought I had to have this specific image of life, Well, I have a baby, so I have to be married because that is, what you do. So I did. And the blessing that I got out of that is both of my boys, have the same dad. He adopted my oldest son, and he is a fantastic dad. And so that really played like a full circle and was absolutely amazing in that. So they're both very, lucky, and we have a great relationship. But, I got married just really young for all the wrong reasons and did a lot of hard stuff. And a lot of that stuff I didn't even deal with emotionally until I was 30, So a lot of that played into eating and the depression and not even knowing that I was depressed, because it was like not even know, I didn't deal with any of that hard stuff I handled at 21.
Wow, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, so it was a lot to go through. And so I think that played a part into why I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. It was, something that just made me feel better. It was
dealing with the stress.
Yeah, it was what it was. So when I started that very first day of T25, and like I said, I literally remember it like it was yesterday. I remember being so defeated and thinking, well, I'm not doing this. I'll just stay fat and get sick because I'm not doing that.
Not worth it if it's that hard.
Yeah, it's not. It's too hard.
And I think a lot of people, sorry to interrupt you, I think they do give up because they try things, whether that's with their diet, so to speak, their new eating plan or their workout program. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah. And it's, something that I always say is unfair is it is so easy to get heavy, and it is so hard to move it the other way. And it's an unfair thing, and it's something that your brain will never accept, that it's going to take you time. That's the hardest thing when you go on any kind of lifestyle change or diet or, whatever you want to call it, is you don't realize that time isn't your friend. You want this expectation of how you want to look and all these things, and odds are, every human is different. Just because, Bobby did it doesn't mean Stephanie's going to do it in the same time Bobby did it.
Exactly.
And that's something, that's hard. So I can get off track so easily and tell a million stories.
Well, and I'm letting you, so I'm going to rein it back in a little bit. So basically, you have started this change, and you've started these workouts. Yeah. They're just too hard. What about nutritionally? What were you changing?
I wasn't. So I went on Weight Watchers, which for me at the time was probably the best decision, and I always suggest something like that because I didn't know or have the education to. I also couldn't have just given everything up, stopped everything. So what I did was I did Weight Watchers, and I just ate less. And Weight Watchers taught me how bad certain things were. So like when I went to Olive Garden, I would usually get the full platter of the chicken Alfredo, but I learned that was 32 points, and 32 points was how many points I got for the whole day.
Sure.
So I was slowly learning, like, oh wow, what I'm eating is what I should be having in a whole day. So I did Weight Watchers.
So you were being conscious of your portions, and were you also being conscious of the quality of food you were eating?
Absolutely not, which is why I was still getting sick.
Okay.
So then basically what happened is I continued to get sick for probably the next 4 months, I want to say. And so what happened is I didn't want pain medication. I didn't want to keep going to the hospital and having hospital bills. So I would just suffer through it. I would go to bed, and I would, not sleep for 4 hours, and then I would go to work.
In the back of your mind, did you hear that doctor saying you're fat and you need to change the way you eat?
No. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think I cared. I liked the food more than I wanted to make the change.
Wow.
I just wasn't.
So even though you were still getting sick?
Yeah, even though I was still getting sick, I just wasn't ready. And then this is going to sound the craziest of it all, but I literally woke up one day and just said, okay, I'm ready to do it all. Enough is enough. I've had it. I can't do this anymore. I can't get sick anymore. Had nothing to do with my body. It had to do with I physically just couldn't get sick on the bathroom floor of my house anymore.
Food is so powerful, isn't it?
It's so crazy.
I've told people for almost 30 years it's really like a drug.
It's its own drug. Absolutely.
It has drug-like effects, right? The different hormones and chemicals that we can talk about later or another time. Yeah. So now you've hit rock bottom. And so now what?
So
where do you go?
It's tax time, you're going to get your tax money back. So I woke up, I said, okay, I'm going 100% paleo, I'm cutting it all out. Dairy, sugars, grain, I'm going to follow the paleo to a T. I purchased a bunch of paleo books off of Amazon, and at this time I had just started a new job. And one of the girls was training for her first bodybuilding competition. So I was like, I'm going to go to CrossFit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hire a personal trainer. So I did. I hired a personal trainer. This is another one of those days where I remember like yesterday. I got there. I had just smoked a cigarette. I hadn't quit smoking yet. Just smoked a cigarette.
Hey, one thing at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of the car. And she has written on a board all the things to do, which is like 100 burpees, 500-meter dash. I think there was some jumping jacks in there and some pull-ups.
And you were willing to do this.
And I was like, yeah, here we go. Well, I got this. I'm going to do it. I did one round.
I'm surprised you made it that far.
Oh, no. Just the run. It was just the first part was a run, which, I'm trying to think of how to say it so that people know how far it was, because it's not that far at all,
But for you it was.
For me it was, but it wasn't.
It was eternity.
I mean, it was.
You were 2 people or 3.
It was absolutely insane. And I had already lost almost 80 pounds at this point in time, on Weight Watchers and the T25.
Oh, okay, before you started the working out.
Before I started the working out.
Okay.
So I already lost some weight, so that's why I thought, I got this. I'm going to do this.
So you had lost 80 of the 192 pounds.
Almost 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
And I did it. And the one regret I have, which I would tell people, is on your day one, no matter how heavy you are, take a photo, put it in your hidden album so you don't have to look at it. Do a side by side. Do your back, because
I would definitely agree with that.
I mean, that's how you know.
Yeah, I would do a front side and back shot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and weirdly for me, my stomach is where, even to this day, if I gain weight, it goes right to my stomach. And so weirdly, I always did the side photos because it was just like, there was something about that angle. So anyways, so I'd already lost some weight. I had done T25 kind of like on and off, but it was just kind of too hard for me because it was cardio and it was like cardio.
Not everything's for everyone.
And it wasn't for me. So I went to CrossFit with my personal trainer. I did this, and I told her, I said, and she's so sweet, but she's just not, it's just a different thing. And she said, well, if you want it, you have to do it. And I said, well, but I do want it, but I can't do this. This is going to make me throw up. And she's like, oh, we all thrown up and done it. And I thought, okay, so I did that for 2 weeks, and then I gave up. Because every time I went there, I wasn't able to complete, and there were people around. So it was like, here I was with this personal trainer, but it was also part of a class. And all these other people were fit.
Probably felt like you were trying to join the Navy SEALs or something.
And it was, I think what it was is I just felt like everybody was staring at me.
Yeah.
And so every time I left there, I left crying. And I just thought, God, I really am I'm never going to be fit. I'm never going to be able to I can't do this. So I went to work, and I told my girlfriend, who was just, bringing her bags of food every day. And I'm like, God, you are so crazy. Like, why are you so into it? That's what So, and I told her, I said, I'm done doing it. I've spent $800. I spent all my tax money. I don't have the money to do this. I can't do it. I'm done. She said, you're not done. She said, do you want to lose weight? And I said, yeah, I do. And she's like, all right, tomorrow we're going to go to the gym together. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I don't know how to use anything in the gym. She said, come to the gym with me. Give me a chance. I was like,
fantastic.
Okay, here we go.
That's a good friend.
Her name is Cam Castro. I tell her all the time, she is 100% the reason I am where I am today. And she has never left my side, even to this day. She took me to the gym. and she showed me how to use every single machine in that gym. And then even on the days where I thought I was professional, you know, like 6 or 7 months had gone by and I was so consistent, she'd be like, "You're doing that wrong." She would come right over and say, "Nope, you need to do it this way, or you're going to hurt this muscle. You're going to do this," you know. So she taught me how to eat paleo. She taught me how to work out in the gym. And she said, keep doing this and have one cheat meal a week.
Great.
Whatever you can have in a meal is your cheat meal, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I was
because
like,
that's sustainable, right?
Absolutely. And it worked.
I'm a big fan of 1 to 2 treat meals a week myself. Wow. So this is just quite a story, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Which, coincidentally, I hadn't heard. You know, I knew a little bit about you, but this is all incredibly interesting for myself as well. So now you're on this journey going to the gym.
Yep.
You're probably looking forward to it because it's something that you are conquering on a daily basis.
And I've become addicted to.
Okay.
Like I saw results so quickly. And I saw changes.
What kind of results did you see?
Mentally, mostly. So, I mean, I saw results in my body, but all of a sudden I was just like so happy and so bubbly to the point where people literally called me the pink bubble gum because I was just so, and my personality naturally has always been, I'm very outgoing, very bubbly, but here I was staying consistent to a plan, and here I am just like losing pounds.
So how long ago was this? How many years ago?
So
or months? I'm assuming years. But
from the very beginning, day one, it's been a total of almost 6 years that it's taken me to lose 192 pounds. My most progression, where I've lost the most inches, and I think the best year would probably be 2019.
Okay.
2018, 2019 are where I really formed and shaped my body, and I did it with no cardio. I didn't even start doing cardio until I went into prep, so I didn't.
Interesting. Yeah, and I didn't know this.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of prioritizing resistance training over cardiovascular training, which the bottom line is that weight training can be cardiovascular.
Absolutely, if you do it the right way.
So it's a combination for you of the gym, specifically weight training, in addition to changes in your eating.
Absolutely.
So the paleo thing worked for you.
Yep, and it
continues to work for you.
So the paleo thing worked for me mostly because as soon as I cut dairy out of my life, I haven't been sick.
Okay, so that was a big, and I'll just say that we're all different, right? So whether it's dairy or whether it's soy or whether it's wheat, or there are a lot of different things that affect people differently.
Absolutely.
And so for you, probably the biggest was the dairy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what was really making you throw up.
Even, now, if I go, say I fall off the wagon, as we call it, I can't fall off the wagon very long because I'll get sick. And I can feel my body does it. And then I'm like, okay, I get it. It's like I have these conversations with my body. But dairy was the one that did it for me. And since then, I've gone to a different doctor where I have an egg allergy, so I can't eat eggs. Eggs make me also very sick. And I was never allergic to them as a kid or in my early 20s. So I can't do dairy and I can't do eggs.
Well, many times it's the foods that people eat too much of that they become allergic to.
Yep.
They just do too much of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so 6 years. So it's taken you 6 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you some specific questions.
Sure.
How many days a week do you go to the gym?
So this is a funny question. When I started training with my coach, because I have a coach, in 2019, I was in the gym 6 days a week. Right now, I'm just now getting back, since the pandemic happened, I kind of fell off the wagon, I guess you would call it.
Sure. A lot of people have.
So before all of that, I was in the gym 6 days a week, and I only took 1 day off. Something that I have learned is I will probably have to do that for the rest of my life. For my mental health, first is what comes most importantly. But for my physical health, if I want to have those cheat meals and I want to have that fun with my girlfriends and my kids,
got to put in the work,
I
right?
have to balance. I have to balance. And the older I get, now the harder it is. I've gained about 11 pounds in the pandemic, and I thought it's going to fall off because it did before. But it's a little bit harder. I also give myself a little bit more now than I did, before. So on average, when I'm not in prep and I'm just living my life, my goal is 2 times a day at least 5 days a week. So
2 times a day.
So I do some kind of fasted cardio now, and that is I have a spin bike, and I just love spinning. So I do 30 to 45 minutes of spinning as soon as I wake up. I literally have to do it as I roll out of the bed, or it's not going to happen. If
it's a great
I
way
don't,
to start your day.
If I don't do it right away, it won't happen. And if I don't do that fasted spin, I probably won't make it to the gym. I don't know why those are connected. I think it has to do with me being a robot. I think I learned that from my job, but a robot and certain things that work for me.
Routine can be great. Some people may not want to do it, but I think it can be very important.
And as long as I follow those, so at least 5 days a week, 2 times,
Would you say that your nutrition is more important, or that your exercise is more important, or are they pretty equally important?
I would say, so 2 things. I would say your nutrition is more important because it's the harder of the 2 evils to change.
I would agree.
Nutrition is one of the hardest things. When I have people come and ask me, like, hey, what's your advice? And I'm like, you need to figure out how to eat first. Because once you figure that out, adding in an exercise routine or the gym, like, that's a fun part for most people, especially if you start at your own pace, your own way. You're not comparing yourself. That's like the fun part of it. The nutrition part is hard. It comes with prepping your food, deciding what to have, all of that stuff. So I would say nutrition is the most important of the 2 choices.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think without a doubt it is. I've told people for a long, long time, I said you can't out-exercise a poor diet.
Right, absolutely.
How important is sleep to you?
Oh, I think that sleep is more important than your nutrition.
And I agree with that as well, yeah.
So I'm a 911 dispatcher. We haven't really talked about that.
Okay, police dispatcher.
Yep, so I have worked graves for the last 7 years. I just now went to days for the last 6 months. So something that I have learned is sleep. When I was on graves, I was averaging at the most 5 hours of sleep. That was on a good day.
Oh boy.
But at the most, it was 3 to 4 hours. I had 2 kids, had to take them to school and then pick them up from school. So now that I'm on days, I find it harder to make it to the gym, but I'm getting more sleep and my nutrition is good. So trying to find that balance, but sleep is so important because you can't really invest into your physical well-being if you're not rested.
Absolutely, yeah. And just for those, listening, a bare minimum of 7 hours really is so important. And if we're not getting enough sleep, then we're producing a lot of stress hormones, specifically cortisol, which is going to make you hold on to more body fat.
Yeah.
And it's also going to make you crave more junk food.
Absolutely. I think, too, I didn't realize how grumpy I was off of 5 hours of sleep. That also played into a part of, like, you try and survive off of caffeine and sugar in your foods, but a lot of it is you're just tired, so you don't want to make your food. It's easier to go through a drive-through or pick some food up, and that's just easy because you're tired and you have to invest what you have into other things like working, being a mom, or whatever it is you do. So
Stephanie, I want to ask, so you had gotten down to 170 pounds, you're at about 180 now.
Yeah.
What are your other goals?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you see yourself doing now?
So since I started this, once I lost 100 pounds, I wanted to do what Cam was doing. So she got on stage and she did this bodybuilding competition, and I was like, that is cool. That is so cool. It's so admirable. And so I, for 5 years, have been working towards this goal. And during the pandemic, I was 11 weeks into prep. And so for people listening, if you know what that means, that is like so amazing.
Good for you. That's an incredible
It
commitment.
was an incredible feeling. It was so many good things about it. I've really had to wrap my mind around starting all of that over because I'm really starting from scratch. Gaining 11 pounds after being in prep is a huge body change.
Well, and especially for you being 5'2".
Absolutely. It's a huge, it's been a mental thing. So my goal is for 2021 to be on stage. I have an amazing coach that I've hired back again, who has given me some really awesome tools to use. Honestly, it's been a lot harder than I thought it would be. I think I've said, day one is going to be tomorrow for a lot of time,
Sure.
for, a couple months now.
Sure.
And that's just, I'm giving myself some grace. But the goal is summer of 2021, which is, 7 months away. I want to be on the stage. So we're talking July or August. And
good for you.
something I did before is I gave myself an unrealistic stage goal. I'm not doing that. I'm giving myself 7 months to be ready because, 18 weeks of that, which is, a little over 3 months, is prep.
Yeah, that's intense.
It's intense. I mean, it is a real...
I've done a few natural bodybuilding contests myself, and I can tell you that it's incredibly difficult, especially the food.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, I think.
But I hope and I assume that you're really proud of yourself, the journey that you've had.
Yeah.
And, and so anything to me, for you, I can't imagine what you've gone through, physically or mentally, but I would think that because of everything in your rearview mirror, that looking out that windshield is very, very bright and doable and achievable for you.
It's funny because most 90% of the time that is actually 100% how it is. I am very proud of myself. Who I am today is most certainly not who I was in my early 20s or my 20s in general. Losing weight changes you mentally, physically. It changes a lot of things for you. You build a lot of strength in a lot of different kind of ways. I've had a lot of life things happen. I've been divorced, remarried, bought a house. A lot of things have happened in, a 7-year time frame. So you shed off that weight and you think to yourself, well, you've probably, you should be so proud and things should be great. But there's still this person inside of me too. For example, yesterday I went and did some shopping. I still to this day shop as if I'm 360 pounds. So I'll pull things off the shelf, and I was with my girlfriend. She's like, you aren't that size anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'll still pull things, so it's an interesting... So
that mental imprint, you still picture yourself that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And only when I'm in a slump stage. So I've only fallen off the wagon a couple times, and they've all been recently. So in 6 years, I really stayed the course. I stayed very strong. I stayed, I know that I can't go out to eat every day because I don't have the structure to say no or the strength.
Yeah.
I know that about myself. I know that I can't have one Oreo because I'll be 15 deep.
Yep.
I know that, so I just don't do it.
I'm that way with chips, by the way.
Yeah. Chips are wonderful. So I really just am trying to be proud of myself, but I'm also trying to be very honest and brutal and blunt with myself that I have to make changes. And so some of the things that I'm going to do for myself are I will not be going out to eat. My next cheat will be Thanksgiving. This is going to sound very hardcore, I guess, but I don't deserve a cheat meal right now because I can't control it. So I won't be having one until Thanksgiving. So I know that from, this point forward until Thanksgiving, I'm going to work as hard as I can because I have to get that mental stability back, and I know it's going to take me about a month.
Good for you. So what would you say, what's your biggest advice if you're talking to a lot of folks out there, what's the advice, maybe specifically for women, but it can be for men as well. Yeah. What's kind of the key advice for them to stay committed and to really maybe reach their goals?
That it's going to be hard. And so accepting that from the very beginning is okay, I know this is going to be hard, but let's take it at my pace. Whatever your own pace is the best thing that you can possibly do. Don't compare yourself to anyone else because that is only going to fail you, and not by any fault of your own. But that's just kind of the world that we live in. So find your own pace. And as far as physical activities, so something I did that I just think works so well is if you are heavy set and you're ready to start out in the exercise world, start with 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then add a minute every day or every couple days. Do not start with 30 or 45 minutes. Even myself, who's been in the fit world, I start at 20 minutes on the spin bike. I start at and give it your all for 10 minutes. Don't just 10 minutes, give it nothing.
It's about progress, right?
Absolutely.
It's not about perfection.
And take some time off if you need it. The mental part of all of this is the hardest part. The mental and emotional part of how you feel about your body and how you feel about other people looking at your body. I will also say going from being heavy to fit and, back and forth is 98% of the people in the gyms are never staring at you.
No. We think they are, but the bottom line is they've got their own thing going on.
They are probably tracking their macros and Facebooking and they're doing their own thing. This is their time in the gym, just like it's yours. So sometimes we let what we think other people are thinking about us ruin what we're doing for ourselves, and it's like we gotta try and control that a little bit, because and we see people in the gym who are really pretty, and even myself, I see people, I'm like,
absolutely,
I don't want to look like that, and it's like, okay, well, stop focusing on what's over there and continue your workout, and maybe you'll get there. It's like, as humans, we're going to compare ourselves. That's, I don't think, something will ever change. It's just finding control and not letting that ruin what you're doing for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of the world that we live in, right? So it's the magazines, it's the TV, it's whatever, it's what's on our phones and Instagram and what have you, Facebook. It's really easy to get wrapped up in those illusions of what we think we can look like. I mean, I'd love to maybe have my hair back. That's not going to happen. I'm bald, so I have to accept that.
Yeah. Well, I think that is something, too, I think we said, in the very beginning is, you make this unrealistic goal for yourself, and you don't realize that it's unrealistic until you continue to not reach it.
Yep.
So if you start with something realistic, little pieces at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit, is that so many people dangle a big carrot way out there. So maybe, whatever it is, let's say it's 50 pounds, they stay focused on that number so much that, in my opinion, they really need to look at daily and weekly. Don't get too wrapped up in the scale. The scale can lie, right?
I hate the scale.
Because our bodies are almost 70% water.
Yep.
And so you might gain a little weight or lose a little weight, and it might just be water that's going on. So I strongly recommend people don't become a slave to a scale.
Yeah.
And number one, go by how you feel, and two, maybe by how your clothes are fitting you. And
I personally have, and I am very honest about this, I personally have a scale addiction. And the way that I have gotten around, when I was in prep and when I was going into prep and I was getting on the scale, 10 to 11 times a day, every single day.
Oh my gosh.
So I would actually tell my husband, like, can you please take the scale and hide it from me?
Yes.
So now I do get on the scale every morning. I've slowly, I think photos are what have really helped me get behind that. So I take a photo, even now off the wagon. I take a photo almost every single Sunday to compare it to the Sunday before, to remind me, okay, you kind of are getting off the wagon here, but the best part about it is I get to look at myself 5 months ago and know, all right, I did that once, I can do that again. Because we're going to fall off the wagon. We're humans. We're never going to be perfect forever.
Yes, exactly.
And the scale is something that I never understand. When I was in prep, my weight didn't move, but my body changed every 6 days.
Yeah.
So, and like substantial changes, like big changes. So the scale is just...
Well, a pound of muscle burns 3 times as many calories as a pound of fat. So a lot of people, so muscle is so powerful. That's one of the main reasons that we need to do resistance exercise, whether that's in a gym or whether that's at home. There's a lot of different, whether it's dumbbells or kettlebells or barbells or machines or bands, or there's a lot of ways to do it. Well, I could talk to you all day, Stephanie, but I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to commend you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. I feel very honored that you're willing to tell us your story.
Yeah, happy to tell it. Hopefully it helps.
Oh, I think it will. It's a remarkable story.
Sometimes I forget how amazing of a story it is until I, tell it. Most people in my life know that story, and I share it so often. So sometimes I forget. It is kind of cool that I've lost that much weight in 6 years, and
it's it's fantastic. And as I was saying earlier, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I've worked with hundreds of clients as a personal trainer and nutritional consultant. And I've had people lose 50, 60, 70 pounds, but you lost twice, almost 3 times that,
Yeah.
as a relatively small person. So again, just great job.
Yeah,
Good
thank
on
you.
you for sticking
Yeah.
to it, and I'm looking forward to your new goals.
Yes, me too. Me too.
And maybe we can get you back on here
Yeah,
again.
yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to talk about some prep, or talk about how the stage was.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Stephanie, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by the popular books Wellness Toolbox 1 and 2. These books are available on Amazon as well as at local Durango, Colorado merchants. Purchase your copies today.